She's going to work.
Oh, I see.
Okay, well, we're on here now, and welcome to our weekly webinar for the MOSOMELT CMOOC, and this is week 6. So really, it's basically the last week of this version of the CMOOC, but I'm pretty sure that we'll just keep running our webinars with various special topics. Anyway, so don't be sad if you're thinking this is the end, because it's just the beginning. And joining us today, I can see Neil's really sad. All the way from Japan, we have Neil.
Morning, Tom. Morning, Lisa.
In fact, I think we might even ask Neil to be a special guest and do a webinar for us because he does some really interesting stuff over there. And we have Lisa.
Hi there.
All the way from across the office. So good to see you, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Neil.
Hi, Lisa.
So, yeah, we're just discussing week 6, which is looking at open scholarships. So it's kind of been a theme that we've really tried to weave right through the CMOOC and really try to, I suppose, explore how social media, and particularly mobile social media, can enable like participation in open scholarship, being able to create and share professional practice online and build up your e-portfolio, your portfolio of professional practice. So open scholarship, I guess, is kind of the catchphrase around that. And it's around sort of sharing your practice. It's not about, just putting everything out there. It's about being critical and creative and curating your practice and sharing stuff that you think is valuable for other people. And that by doing that, there's a lot of benefits. So part of the benefits are getting to meet people like Neil and Lisa and a whole crowd of people all around the world who are actually willing to share their experiences, share their ideas, and be able to work off those and collaborate. So it's a very powerful community to be part of. So I'm just going to quickly screen share, and once again, my voice is still slightly croaky. It's a little bit better today, but we'll see how we go. And I might have to get Neil and Lisa to talk more, but we'll see. So just going to share today's notes. Can't find the right screen. And where are we? I think that's us. Yep, okay. And present to everyone. There we go. So we're in the MOSOMELT forum. This is the discussion forum on Moodle. And if you haven't been there, the address is community.sotel.nz. And then you select the MOSOMELT social forum. This is where we're posting updates, etc. But for this week on our WordPress hub, mosomelt.wordpress.com, week 6, developing open scholarship. So I guess we're just sort of trying to get people to think through some of these ideas and issues and point people towards some tools that they can use, some research social networks that they can engage with, and that a lot of open scholars use. So some of these, and I know Neil has already set up most of these, are ResearchGate. And ResearchGate is kind of like its own independent research social network. Mendeley, which really is kind of like a cross between a research social network and a bibliographic tool. Google Scholar, of course, which is not really a social network as such. It's your own personal online portfolio of work, and the same with OrcID. OrcID is not a social network, but it's an open researcher and contributor identifier. So it's a way of curating your body of work, and it's not owned by a publishing company, and so it's independent, and is seeing huge uptake via a lot of journal platforms as, I guess, an unbiased way and a more encompassing way of showcasing your body of work, because you tend to publish in different domains under different publishers, and OrcID is one way of pulling all that together. So Neil, have you created an OrcID profile?
Yes, it wasn't something that I would have thought of, except the publishers, when you submit to a journal or if you do a review of an article, nowadays they sort of almost make it compulsory.
Yeah,
I
over
don't
the
know.
last 2 years, that's really taken off, and so there's been a lot of buy-in from just about all the big publishing companies for having Orc ID as a way of identifying you as a scholar, which I think is fantastic actually, because as I said, it's not owned by any single publishing company; it's independent.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I haven't really seen the advantages of it, to be honest, except it allows you access to submit an article or to review one. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what beyond that, what advantages there are for it.
Sure. So I'm just going to go into my profile and to go the. Oh, I thought I went to public. Oh, yeah, it is public. Yep. So now it's not editable. Makes it slightly cleaner to read. So you get basically a unique address. There's my Orc ID address. When you're logged in to your own profile and editing, you also get the option of creating a QR code. So it's just basically a link that you can print or email as a QR code to your Orc ID. So in some ways, it's quite useful, say, as a instead of a little card, you can use your Orc ID as your I suppose, professional contact card. So you can create a big biography. So there's my biography there. I guess I've started using it kind of like a hub. So I link to all my other online profiles. And I find it quite nice as a way of doing that. So instead of sending people links to all these, different 10 or 12 different sites, I can just send them the link to my Orc ID. And then from there, they can launch off and check out other stuff that they may be more interested in. So I find that quite useful as that sort of one-stop shop to start from. The other thing that I think is particularly useful is that it directly links into the two big publishing companies, which is databases, which is Scopus ID and Researcher ID. So it authenticates you, I guess, effectively as as a real author within those two databases. So, for myself, if I look at my Scopus author ID, it's only a subset of what I do. The same with Researcher ID. Not everything's there. Some stuff is in only in one database. A lot of stuff is in both. So there's a little bit of double up. And what Orc ID offers is a way of pulling that all together in one place. And as Neil said, most journals are now getting on board with that. The other thing that I found really quite powerful, and this is quite new in the last year, is not just for your publication records. If I scroll down, keep on going, down. Here we go. It now links into Publons. So Publons is like an online reviewing portfolio. So that includes things like your editorial work. If you're an editor of a journal, you can actually have a record of that, because without something like Publons, it's just all invisible. It's work you're doing and that you're required to do, but no one gets to see it and no one knows you're actually doing it. And then, of course, your reviewing activity as well.
So that's just a question, Tom. The ones that I've been reviewing, those journal articles.
Yeah.
Do you think I should be putting those, a record of what I've been reviewing in here?
Yeah, so what you do, Lisa, that's a good question. For those who haven't created a Publons profile, Neil, have you?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what you do is you go to Publons, and is it what? Let me see. I got the link there. I must have the link somewhere.
So I can find it.
Publons.com. There it is. I couldn't remember if it's .com or .net. And basically you sign up. So because I've already got an account, I log in. But if you don't, you register. And you'd register with whatever your preferred email address is, probably your institutional one, but
Yep.
it doesn't matter. So you fill out your profile, your details there, and then every time you review for a journal, if the journal is subscribed to Publons, then you automatically, it populates into your profile. If the journal isn't, and a lot of journals aren't, then what you do is you email to Publons the thank you letter that you get from the editors.
Okay.
So you'll get an email from the editor saying thank you for your review, and it'll have in that email the details of the paper that you've reviewed and the details of the journal, and then you just send that to reviews@publons.com, and make sure that your email address is included. That's the one that you registered with Publons. They check that, make sure it's an actual real review that you've done, so they get access to the publisher's site, and then they add that to your profile.
Okay.
So there's an automatic process. The journal subscribes. There's a manual process if they don't.
Yeah. You get a message back saying you are 10,516th in the queue.
Yeah.
It will take 2 weeks for it to come through.
Yeah.
Usually they're quicker than what they say.
Okay. All right. I'll look at that after this webinar.
Yeah. So I guess those are a couple of reasons why I've found OrcID useful, Neil, as it's kind of like starting to pull into one place. My academic activity.
If you got your list of publications there, can you automatically download them, or do you have to input them one at a time?
You can do it manually or via Scopus and the Web of Science and whatever the other database is called now. You just link your OrcID and it's automatic.
Okay.
So you go into your Scopus author ID, so you've got to claim that to start with, and then you link in your OrcID, the same with research ID, link your OrcID to both, and there's a button you click to say send all my publications to my OrcID. And it should then, once you've done it once, do that automatically, although I've found that I need to go in occasionally and prompt it to do it. And then they all start coming up in your profile here.
Okay. I'll try that out.
Yeah. I mean, there's other fields you can fill out as well that I haven't I think there's like one for funding. I've only done the basics there for qualification, etc. So it can become a more fuller portfolio. Some of the other tools that were suggested people look at, well, Mendeley is one, so I have a Mendeley profile. You start having all of these profiles, but I guess there's still no one place for everything. So it's about having, I suppose, different avenues, different irons in the fire of showing your output, your work in academia, and evidence of that. I really like ResearchGate. I think it's a great community. It's basically independent of all the others. So its statistics, its scores, etc., are its own. They don't link into any of the other databases as such. But it's getting to be quite a large network now. The other thing I like about ResearchGate is allow you to create projects. So you can link to your publications, your various publications, but you can start sort of curating those into project groups. And so for me, I'm starting to get a team of PhD students that I'm supervising around certain topics, and so groups for them, and they feel part of this wider community, not just doing this on their own. So I find that quite powerful, and as a place to show some of the project work that we're doing, and then link into those projects the associated research outputs that we're producing. So when I'm sending someone details of the Mesh 360 project, for example, our multiple environment simulation hub, I can just send them the ResearchGate link, and then they can go and look at all the stuff that we've been doing, keep the project log relatively up to date, and so they can see sort of progress in its reverse chronological order. So it's a nice way of showing that we're actually working on stuff, that we're being active, that we're doing research, and it's linked to those projects. So we've already done Org ID. There's links there if you haven't already registered yourself for Scopus or Researcher ID. You'll actually be there in the database if you published, and your publications have been automatically put into those databases. You just need to go and prove that it's you by telling Scopus who you are, putting your email address in, creating a profile, and then teaching those databases who you are in the system, because sometimes you might have published under different versions of your name, like I have, like a TD Cochrane or T Cochrane or Thomas Cochrane or Tom Cochrane. Bit of a rookie mistake to start with, but by using different versions of my name. But then Scopus and Researcher ID don't know that you're the same person, but you teach it. And then, of course, there's more than one T Cochrane in the world, of course, as well. So it's kind of like Thomas is a family name. So my uncle, my grandfather, etc. Teaching Scopus who the right Tom Cochrane you are, or Neil Cowie or Lisa Rantham, etc.
Yeah, famous rugby player, Neil Cowie.
Oh, there you go. I thought you looked a bit buff.
No, if you Google Neil Cowie and fight, something like that, you will get quite an interesting looking fight on the rugby.
That's good to know.
I think one of the other interesting thing about ResearchGate is that you can follow people and people can request you directly and message you. So
Yes.
It also has a little connectivity and social aspect to it as well, which I personally quite enjoy.
Yeah, so you get points for asking questions and answering questions as well. So if you want to build your profile that way, you can do that. I also find it quite a nice way of kind of like self-publishing in some ways. So if you publish in open access journals, then you can make the articles fully available on ResearchGate. If you've published in closed access journals, subscription-based journals, then you can archive on ResearchGate a private version of your article without transgressing your copyright, because it's not public, and people can then request access to that individually. And most copyright journals allows you to do that, to distribute your research to individuals, but not to make it publicly available. So you just got to check when you're uploading stuff to ResearchGate or academia.edu or Mendeley that you're not infringing copyright, that you've signed off with journals saying that they have sole access to distribute your content, and then you start making it publicly available on these research networks. They'll get rather upset, and they will ask you to refrain from that, or they'll take you to court. So those are things to be aware of. Check out the copyright of the articles that you're sharing. Does it allow public access or not? If it doesn't, then you can archive them for your own private use on these networks, but you can't make them publicly available. You can still obviously put the outlines, the abstracts there, so people know that you've published those, and then the link to the actual official journal article on the publisher's site. So yeah, good questions and good comments there, Raj. So another part of being open access, open scholar, is using social media such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., and all those types of social media are collated through altmetrics. So it's a way of showing your research impact in social media conversations. So if you check out the about altmetrics, what are altmetrics? About our data, there we go, our sources, the social media sources that altmetrics tracks are various blogs. So, WordPress, if you're discussing your research and you put the DOI to the article on a blog article, then Publons will track it. So the key is putting that DOI the link that doesn't change and the link that's direct to the published article within whatever social media that is tracked, then that will end up on your Altmetrics score. So they track Wikipedia, various social media like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, which has gone the way of the dodo now, Weibo, Pinterest, etc. Multimedia platforms, so they're YouTube, Reddit, Q&A, and they do Publons as well. So another reason to set up a Publons profile is they do track the activity that's happening on Publons. So it's a way of pulling all that together and getting more proof of your impact as a researcher. And you get an Altmetrics badge for that article, which will have a score. And even a lot of traditional databases now, like our own one here at AUT, Research Elements, has a section for the Altmetrics score for each individual article as well. So those are just some sort of ideas around, I've got a couple of examples down here of Altmetrics. So let's just quickly show you what that looks like. So here's one that I published in BChat, which is obviously not open access unless you pay an article publishing charge. But by tweeting the link to the DI of the article, you can get impact scores on Altmetrics. And so here it says that there's one blog mentioned that article. There's been 21 people on Twitter tweeting about it. There's been one video discussing it, which is, I'm pretty sure is YouTube on YouTube. 50 Dimensions, I don't even know what that is. I haven't come across it, but apparently 50 people on Dimensions have mentioned that article. 213 readers on Mendeley, and 4 people from Site You Like, and I don't use Site You Like, so that's some other people. But so it's kind of showing you the impact on social media. And the cool thing about it is just having tweeted the link to that a couple of times, other people have then read it and retweeted it or looked at it on these other sites, etc. And with a score of 25, it's put me in the top 5% of research outputs scored by Altmetrics. So it's relatively easy to start showing some impact around, well, beyond the standard academic niche. Because what's the point of publishing stuff and no one ever reads it? So get that out there. So those are just some ideas. I'm going to stop screen sharing now, and my voice is rapidly starting to pack up. But so yeah, comments, thoughts from our erudite panel here.
I think, Tom, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's always useful to hear some of these insights about that, how important it is to put yourself out there through some of these things. And also it can be a little scary because as a researcher, people might think that, okay, I can do good research, I could do good teaching, but I'm not sure whether I can look after this and this and this. There's so many different profiles. For me personally, what I do is I have a good LinkedIn profile. I have a reasonably okay ResearchGate profile, and I have an okay org ID, and then of course I have Twitter and YouTube. So these are the 5 things I have chosen to engage myself, and I invest my energy into them. And of course there are a lot of other avenues as well, and sometimes I get tempted, but then I think that I may not be able to do 100% justice to all of them. So that's why I'm limiting myself to these 5 platforms to sort of share the work which I've done, or the work which has been published, or to follow other people's, or to network. So that's my circle of where I play around with them.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent strategy, Raj. Sorry. It's about obviously choosing the platforms that you're comfortable with, that you want to invest in, that you see as valuable for your own profile, and choosing those. So it's not like you have to do everything and get completely overwhelmed. It's like, what are the things you find powerful and useful for you as a researcher and in that community, and invest in those. So what about you, Neil? I mean, you kind of are relatively new to that sort of domain, I think, but I think you're finding it useful.
Yeah, the ResearchGate, I hadn't really seen the advantages of it, but since March, I beefed up my profile and added lots of things, and it has created, certainly I get a lot more reads, I think, than used to happen. Thanks for clearing up about the copyright issue. I was a bit confused about that, to be honest.
Yeah, there was a big issue, particularly with academia.edu, because they kind of started it before ResearchGate, and a couple of years ago there was a 2013 I think it was, Elsevier, one of the big publishing companies took them to court because they were making, saying you're making public available as paid subscription-based content, and it's voiding copyright. But then 2014, a lot of funding models started changing, particularly in the UK, where HFC basically came out and said they would no longer fund research that was not publicly accessible. And so it's forced a lot of the big publishing companies to rethink their approach and to allow, at least at the very minimum, for your university to have public access to your research. And they've been a little bit less hardline on some of these sites. But, if you're signed copyright, you still can't make that publicly accessible, but you can make it privately accessible.
Yeah, thanks.
And I guess Lisa's kind of not being a traditional academic as such, is that this isn't quite so exciting for her. But
but actually, no, I've actually picked up some good stuff from that, and I'm going to get onto publons.com and just getting my ones, try and get the journal articles that I've reviewed put into there.
Yeah, so if you got a record of the emails, of the thank you emails from the editors, then you can dredge those up and send them off to Publons. You don't need to start again.
Yeah.
I guess I effectively started again from 2017 or something, just because it was such a pain to dredge up 15 years of emails. So I just said, stuff it, or start again from 2017 and go from there. But
that would be a good way to actually register what I've done.
Yeah.
While we're talking about reviews, would you mind if I just lever in a question about reviews? It's not exactly on topic, and cut me off if you feel it's inappropriate. But recently, I do review quite a bit, and I get very, very polite messages back from publishers saying thank you so much for your review and so on. We couldn't do this without you. And then as a writer, I get messages back which aren't quite so polite.
From the reviewers.
Not from the reviewers, from the editor.
Oh, really?
And then without any review, this happened the other day, and it just said this isn't suitable, and then that's it. There's no explanation. There's no actual review, and I just wondered whether that was a common thing to come across, and if you've got some experience like that, then whether it's from the same publisher where I get the same very polite
ones from
polite one back thanking me for reviewing for them, but then when I sent a paper in and it's just rejected completely without any explanation. I don't mind the rejection. It's just the bluntness of it.
I just want to add something here, Neil. I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I have personally experienced something similar as well. And I think what I understood from that experience was some of those experiences was sometimes they have these standard templates or just a line or two, which they don't go without even indulging into further details once they know that this particular manuscript is just not going to be suitable for whatever reasons for their article. They don't even, of course, then they decide based on their editorial rights not to send it further. And they just want to be as short and as quick and as blunt and as direct as possible. But I'm sure that once you become a nice editor somewhere, I'm expecting you to write a nice email to them, and we can start that change from ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, we could change the template at least,
Yeah, I think theoretically, the idea behind peer review process and editorial process is obviously about quality, maintaining quality, but it should be constructive feedback, and it's not always, unfortunately. And that's just part of the life of peer review. You get, academics are not necessarily that nice as far as being people goes, but that's and it gets reflected in their reviews sometimes. But it's also sort of thinking through. Look at the journal. Look at what the journal says its scope is. And is your article within that scope? Is it appropriate for that journal? And if it isn't, then there's no point submitting to that journal because it's just going to get rejected. So each journal will have a specific scope, a specific sort of audience that they're trying to market to. And so you've got to make sure that your article, your research lines up with what they want. If within that it should have relatively broad parameters. But if it doesn't fit within those, then you're just lining yourself up for rejection.
But having said that, we should also remember that rejections are part and parcel of academia. And we should absolutely be comfortable and at ease with facing rejections right on our faces. I know it sounds very easy for me to say it, and it can be hard when we all encounter these. But what I have learned over these few years is the more comfortable we can become and more quickly we can bounce back and move upward and onwards, the better it is for us.
Yeah, I think it's always a blow to the ego when you get a rejection or you get a really negative review. But at the end of the day, it's then like, okay, obviously I didn't, meet the scope, or I didn't communicate, for some reason, it's not connecting with that reviewer. And so it's best just to sort of suck it up and do, okay, those are the changes that need to do, let's resubmit. Or, okay, so it's not appropriate for that journal, let's submit somewhere else. So it's just, get over that blow to the ego quickly and move on, or else you're never going to, grow and develop. Hey, thanks for the discussions, and we're pretty much over time now. And thank you, Raj, for joining us. Always nice to see your smiling face. And Lisa, thank you for your input.
No worries.
And Neil. And although this is week 6 of the MOSOMELT CMOOC, and it's pretty much the end of this version of the CMOOC, we will be continuing our weekly webinar series. And so we'll probably invite Raj to do, a highlight of his research, and maybe even talk about the HERDS conference.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
Lisa might want to do something around her presentation of the Blackboard conference.
Yes, but I've got to wait to make sure it's accepted, although I've on the committee and have been sent about 20 abstracts, and that's one of them.
Yeah, awesome.
So I've just gone highly commended.
All right.
and of course, Neil, we had to get Neil to do a special guest.
I can specialise in coping with rejection, I think.
I think that's actually really quite important, because you never hear and you don't see very often the research around what didn't work.
Yes, and
that's what you learn the most from.
And before we log off, I just want to comment that, Neil, you're looking stunning in this new hairstyle.
He tells me it's because it's suddenly got hot in Japan.
Yes, it's very hot. So, yeah.
Hey, thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks. Catch you next week. Neil, I'll send you those emails.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
See ya.